Hello, ladies and gentlemen, CaptainShack here. Welcome to the Red Rocket gas station, and welcome to my video on Fallout 4 VR. Now, while I was at E3, I got the opportunity to play around and actually get my hands on Fallout 4 VR. This was just announced at Bethesda that they're officially either making a patch or they're going to re-release Fallout 4 VR. We're not quite sure what exactly they're going to do, but VR is coming to the Fallout universe for Fallout 4. Now, I've always wanted this. I messed around with the DK2 a while back, getting it to work with Fallout New Vegas, which was a fun and interesting experience, but the resolution was just terrible on the DK2. It just wasn't something you could do, and New Vegas didn't have the frame rate to really support the VR experience without making you sick. But, that being said, right, Fallout 4 in VR is a pretty awesome experience. Now, this is the earliest rendition of it, so when I was talking to the developer who was there, they were saying, you know, everything here is just us testing and figuring out what works best. None of this is, like, locked in stone yet, because they just announced this. Anywho, let's walk through what was actually in the demo. So I'm playing on my PC version of Fallout 4 to use as just some background footage and to explain some of the things that I saw. I was not allowed to capture footage. I couldn't even take a picture of the screen of the PC running it. So you load up in the VR demo that they had here at the Red Rocket. Now they made a few changes. Right around here they had a rack of bottles and paint cans that you could actually shoot at, like a firing range. And then they had a couple of cars off in this direction, which I think were automatically there. I've already just scrapped them for some parts for my house. But anyways, what they gave us was 3 weapons: the double-barreled shotgun, the 10mm pistol, and the nuke launcher, which I didn't actually bother to use because I wanted to just manipulate items in VR. So the first thing you noticed when getting into the VR was what you were holding. In your left hand, because we're playing with the HTC Vive, you've got the 2 motion controllers in your hands. Your left hand represented the Pip-Boy, of course, right? You could actually move it around. Looking at it, didn't pause time or anything. It wasn't a button press. It was just lifting your arm up and looking at it. And that was such a cool experience because it felt so natural. You just bring your arm up to your face like you would if you were wearing a Pip-Boy, and you could see the menus live right there in front of you. Now, look how close this is to the screen, right? I don't have a huge field of vision when playing on a normal monitor, so this takes up almost all, this is like almost all of it. If I actually double right click, I can bring it in even closer. Well, let's go ahead and zoom that back out. It's kind of hard to see the text when you're playing in VR. Hopefully, they're gonna change the font size or something to make it a little bit easier to see these. It was good enough that I could manipulate my inventory, but it was really blurry and hard to see. Another thing that should be noted is they didn't render your arms for either object in your left or your right hand. So it was just a floating Pip-Boy in this demo. I'm betting this is something that will be changed. They will render out an arm to make it feel a little bit more natural, because it was just a floating object right in front of you. But it did represent your hand, and it was very cool to be able to move my arm around and see the Pip-Boy move with my arm. In my right hand, I started off with the 10mm pistol. Now, right now, it's attached to the screen, right? You can't really manipulate it. You can reload. It plays a reload animation that you've seen probably 1,000 times. But when playing in the VR version they had, I could actually take the pistol and it would move anywhere I moved the control stick, meaning I could rotate it around in my hand. I could look at all the little details on it, all the scratches on the magazine butt, on the barrel. I could actually see the mods I placed on it, if it had mods. It was just the default one. But you could really examine these beautiful models that they made for this title. Another thing to note, when using the pistol, I started hip firing, trying to hit targets. And I hit a target, maybe just one out of like 10 shots that I fired, and it wasn't the one I was aiming at, because that's how far my aim was off, because I was hip firing. And when I say hip firing, I don't mean like this. I mean my arm was down at my hip and I was just cracking off rounds, which is, you gotta keep reminding yourself, everything I'm doing in the real world is being put into Fallout 4, just about. My arms, my head movement. Now, when I actually started to aim, meaning not right-clicking, but bringing the weapon up to my right eye, closing my left eye and looking down the sights and lining shots up, I was able to hit my targets 90% of the time. And that was just bad aim on my part. Squeezing the trigger really fast threw off my aim, like you would expect it to do if you were actually using a pistol. But squeezing them off slowly, lining up the shots, it felt very satisfying to know that I'm actually aiming this weapon. It was very cool. So that, right there, one of the funnest little moments in the Fallout VR trial. Now, I only had about 5 minutes to mess around with this, so I ran around a bit trying to figure things out. What else? Well, I had 3 weapons. The other weapon I was trying out was the shotgun. Less fun because you don't really have to aim this as much. And it was also a little weird to have this shotgun being held in just my right hand, because you'd think you'd have both hands there. I don't know if that was just I didn't have enough time with the demo to kind of get used to it, but it is what it is. Now, one thing that I didn't really even think about was manipulation of items. Let's go in here. I've already got one of my weapons on this bench here. Now, in normal Fallout, when you're playing on your PC or your controller, if you're going to manipulate an item in the world, you can hit E or whatever the controller option is, and you can move it around like this. It's kind of clunky. It's hard to get exactly where you want it. Oh, god damn it. And that's kind of your experience, right? Trying to put stuff on a shelf is hit or miss. But what's cool about the VR bit is that you're picking stuff up with your hand that can move in a 3D space. So I can reach out and I can grab this, hitting a button to grab, and now it's attached to my hand, and then I can rotate, manipulate, put it where I wanted, and let it go. It wasn't perfect, but it was a hell of a lot better than this. It's just neat that you can reach out and touch things. You can dip around an object and look around its 3D model just by moving in the space. The HTC Vive has a play area for which you can move around and the sensors will track you. Now this translated not only into manipulating objects, but when taking cover when I started fighting some bandits that tried to come and attack the gas station. They came from this direction. There was a car over here during the demo. I found myself crouching. And I mean actually crouching in the space and leaning around the corners of the car, trying to get a shot on these bandits who were running up this wall, this hillside over here. And I was returning fire. It was one thing to have these bandits firing at me and seeing rounds ping off the rust bucket of a car that I was using for cover. It was another thing to actually physically duck from those rounds and then pop back up and return fire. It wasn't perfect. The mode of transportation that they're using, the controls for moving, right now, it's using the teleportation system. If you're wondering what that is, you can look up VR Minecraft with the HTC Vive, and it's this, what you would see when you wanted to move is almost like a small grenade arc that goes about 4 or 5 feet in front of you. And instead of, walking with a control stick, you would teleport from point to point to point to point. And you could do this fairly quickly. Now, the reason they do this is because some people get motion sick when their eyes tell them that they're running forward because they're using, say, a Xbox controller, yet they're not moving their body, there's a disconnect, and they can get queasy. I don't have this problem per se, though maybe I do, and I just haven't experienced it in a world this detailed. But some people do have that issue. So in the demo that they had the teleportation system. I asked them about this. I said, is this the route you want to go? And the developer said, well, this is just one of the things we're experimenting with. They're not sold on it. What I would think is going to happen is that for safety, they're probably going to just have the teleportation as the default. And then for those that want to try it, maybe an option in the options menu where you can flick it on to just controller movement. And then maybe you can use the HTC Vive's controls to just run forward and backwards. That wouldn't be surprising. The controls are there on the actual HTC controller, so who knows? We'll see what happens, what they decide to go with. Overall, I will say very impressed with the VR content so far. Where they're at right now, manipulating it. There was no reload animation. There was nothing that I could do where I could like flick maybe the pistol in a certain way and the magazine would drop out and then I could slam a new one home. I'd love to see those kind of mechanics put in there, but this is still the really early days for them. I mean, it's not supposed to come out till next year. So they've got some time. Now, why is this so important to me? Well, right now, as much as I'd like to say otherwise, most games that are out for VR or coming out seem like really fancy tech demos. The reason being, a large team trying to make a game for VR, there's just no point right now. There aren't enough units in homes for a company to make that money back. There aren't enough people to sell this stuff to yet. So getting a fleshed out world like this made specifically for VR, it's not gonna happen. But the idea of making this, oh shit, there's actually raiders down there, just like the demo. Come here. Headshot. But to take a game that's this large, has a huge modding community, lots of new content coming out for it, and giving VR support to this level is very exciting. I can't wait to explore the wasteland and properly play all the way through Fallout 4, because I'll be honest, I have not played the whole way through. And that's a whole nother video on explaining why I've waited. But yeah, I'm excited. And I hope you guys are excited too, because I think it's going to be really neat. There's a lot of new VR tech coming out. Even if you can just use the Oculus and not have the room play area, I think it'd be really cool to just be able to look around the Fallout universe in VR if you haven't had that experience yet. So, all right, guys, let me know in the comments below what you guys think, and what kind of solutions can you guys think of for the movement quandary? Like, how can we deal with movement and not make people sick, or just give more options? I was thinking, obviously, there's the treadmill technology that's coming out. We're talking about the Omni. That looks kind of cool, but it also takes away some of what the HTC Vive offers, which is the ability to walk around in a room area. Being able to, like, crouch and lean to the left and lean to the right and look around objects. The Omni kind of, like, locks you into this small space. Look up the Omni if you don't know what I'm talking about. It's this kind of weird treadmill concept. I've heard good things, though. I know the guys at TGN have tried it out and said that it's actually really, really natural to feel like you're running on this thing with VR, and then with a gun peripheral in your hands. You could definitely play a shooter that way and get one hell of a workout. So that could be a whole nother video on its own. I'm rambling now. So anyways, enjoyed this video, hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel for more gaming and modding and sci-fi goodness. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Let's go see what that bandit had on him. You showed up at the wrong time, dude. I was doing a video. Double-barreled shotgun, and we'll take that. Why not? I blew his head clean off. Later, guys.